My name is Jeanne Abel, and I'm 31 years old. I ghosted my cheating husband, and he completely fell apart. Now somehow I'm the villain in everyone else's version of the story. 8 years of marriage, gone with one phone call and a suitcase. If you'd asked me a year ago what my life was like, I would have said normal. We argued sometimes, sure, but nothing dramatic. Bills got paid. We had a standing Friday takeout tradition. He kissed my forehead in the mornings and complained about traffic at night. Boring, safe, predictable. At least that's what I thought. 7 months ago, I came back from a work trip a day early. I didn't tell him. I wanted to surprise him. I had this corny little fantasy of walking through the door, his face lighting up, maybe ordering our favorite Chinese and having one of those cozy, lazy nights that make the rest of the chaos worth it. I remember watching the highway signs blur past while the sky turned that soft gray gold it gets before sunset. My gas light blinked on about 12 miles from home, so I took the next exit. It was an area I barely knew, just a gas station, a couple of side streets, a four-way stop that seemed to take forever. I filled up, got back on the road, and rolled toward the intersection, drumming my fingers on the steering wheel. That's when I saw it, his car. Same make, same color, same sticker peeling at the corner of the rear window. It rolled out from a side street I'd never turned down in my life, then passed through the intersection in front of me, heading the same direction I was. For a second, my brain just stalled. What is he doing over here? He was supposed to be home. The last time we'd spoken, maybe 2 hours earlier, he told me he was just going to relax and maybe do some laundry. Laundry my ass. I grabbed my phone and hit his contact. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Hey," he answered, slightly out of breath. "What's up?" There was this weird echo in the background, like he was in a hallway or a car, not our living room. "Hey," I said, forcing my voice to sound casual. "Our meeting's wrapped up early. I'm driving home." Silence for half a heartbeat, then his tone flipped to bright and warm. "Babe, that's great. When are you getting here?" He sounded startled, not happy surprised, caught surprised. I watched his car speed up in the distance, my knuckles whitening around the wheel. 15 minutes, I said. "Where are you? I can hear you driving." He hesitated. "Not long, just enough." "Oh, I'm, just running to the store," he said, the one close to the house. Lie. He was in front of me on a highway that was nowhere near that store. That was the moment something inside me snapped into place. Not heartbreak yet, not even anger, just cold, clean clarity. He was lying, and if he was lying that easily, it wasn't over something small. I swallowed. "Perfect. I'll meet you there," I said sweetly. "We can grab a few things and then maybe go out to dinner somewhere?" I could almost hear his brain scrambling. "Yeah," he said a little too quickly. "Sounds great." I glanced at the mile marker. "I just passed the rest area," I added, casually. The same rest area he had just flown by. He went quiet for a full second, then, "Okay, I'll wait in the parking lot. See you soon." We hung up. No sooner had the call ended than his brake lights flickered, and then he gunned it. His car shot forward, weaving a little through traffic. The message was loud and clear. He did not want me anywhere near wherever he'd just been. By the time I reached the store parking lot, he was already there, leaning against his car, fiddling with his shirt like it was suddenly too tight. He tucked it in, untucked it, smoothed his hair, checked his reflection in the side mirror. When I pulled in, he plastered on this big, boyish grin like he was in a commercial. "There's my girl," he said, coming around to open my door like we were in some kind of rom-com. As I stepped out, I noticed his collar was misaligned, one button off, and he reeked of cologne, the kind he only wore on special occasions. He saw me notice and quickly adjusted it. "Traffic was crazy," he added, like that explained anything. Inside the store, he suddenly needed the restroom. "Me too," I said lightly. We split off into our respective doors. I did actually use the toilet, washed my hands, and stepped back out a few minutes later. Then I waited, and waited, and waited. I checked my phone. 10 minutes. 15. All the while, I could hear one steady sound from behind the men's room door. The sink. Running, never shutting off. He finally emerged with damp hair at his temples and his sleeves rolled a little higher than before. Sorry, he said, flashing a sheepish smile. "TMI, but, number 2. I stared at him, every muscle in my face locked in place so I wouldn't show what I was thinking. "You weren't using the toilet. You were scrubbing someone else off you." "Gross," I laughed like it was a silly, harmless overshare. "Come on, let's shop." We went through the aisles like nothing was wrong. He made little jokes, tossed my favorite snacks into the cart. To anyone watching, we looked like a perfectly normal couple grabbing groceries after a long day. Inside, my mind was running scenarios at 100 miles an hour. At home, he suggested we just grab prepared food from the store instead of going out, which was fine by me. The last thing I wanted was to sit across from him in a restaurant pretending this was a date. Over microwaved pasta and boxed salad, I asked casually, "So, anything interesting happened today?" He took a huge bite, chewed, and shrugged. "Nah, just work. Came straight home. You know how it is." Another lie, clean and simple. He didn't stutter, didn't blush, didn't look away. If I hadn't been behind him on the highway, if I hadn't seen his car on that side street with my own eyes, I might have believed him. That night, he fell asleep within minutes, snoring softly like a baby. I lay next to him staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. It's funny, the things your brain does when you're trying not to fall apart. I listed chores I needed to do, emails I needed to send, grocery items we'd forgotten, anything to drown out the image of his car turning out of that unknown street. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. The side street, the lie, the way he'd driven away from me, like he was being chased. You'd think someone hiding something like that would be a nervous wreck. He slept like he didn't have a care in the world. The next day, I checked his phone while he was in the shower. Nothing. No suspicious texts, no unknown numbers. I logged into our cell provider account. The call history looked clean. I checked our credit card bill, no strange restaurant charges, no hotel stays. For a moment, I almost gaslit myself. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe it really was just an errand. Maybe... No. My gut wouldn't let it go. The absence of proof didn't feel like innocence. It felt like skill. If he was cheating, he was good at covering his tracks. About a week later, he called me at work. "Hey," he said, voice smooth. "Just wanted to let you know I'll be working late tonight. Month end close. Don't wait up, okay?" On the surface, it was a perfectly normal thing for him to say, but my whole body went cold. "That's fine," I replied. "Be safe." As soon as I hung up, I grabbed my keys. I didn't go home. I drove to that same exit, that same intersection, and parked at a McDonald's where I could see the main road. At 4:45 p.m., right on cue, his car appeared. I watched it turn down the exact same side street. I waited 10 long minutes, my fingers digging crescents into the steering wheel. Then I followed, keeping my distance, heart hammering. Halfway down the street, I saw it. His car in the driveway of a neat, modest house, parked beside a shiny new pickup. I slowed, snapped pictures as I rolled past, then kept going, like I was just another stranger lost in the neighborhood. By the time I got home and looked up the address, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. The house belonged to a woman almost 20 years older than us, a co-owner of a company that did business with his. Divorced. 2 college-age kids. That was the night everything shifted. Later, he walked in the door carrying bags from my favorite Chinese place, smiling like he'd just won the lottery. "Surprise," he said, leaning in to kiss me. I turned my head at the last second and gave him my cheek. It was automatic, like my body couldn't handle the thought of his mouth on mine. As we ate, he asked, "So, what's your schedule like tomorrow? You still going to that client site?" He looked so eager when he said it, like he couldn't wait to get rid of me for the day. That was the moment something inside me stopped breaking and started hardening instead. Because if he was already planning his next rendezvous, then I needed to start planning something too. Not a confrontation, not a fight. An exit. I didn't sleep that night. While he snored softly beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every lie he'd told during the past week, and every lie I had been too trusting to notice before. By sunrise, I had a plan. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. I wasn't going to beg for the truth. I was going to walk away so cleanly, so silently, that he'd feel the absence like a hole opening beneath his feet. Before he woke up, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my laptop, and booked a hotel room under a different card. One he didn't have access to, one he wouldn't be able to trace. I tucked it deep into my purse along with the reservation confirmation. When he finally stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes, I forced a smile and 2 cups of coffee. "Long day today," I told him lightly. "I'll be at a client site, probably won't be home until late." His reaction was instant, too instant. His eyes brightened, and he tried to hide it behind a casual sip of coffee. "Oh, really? What time do you think you'll get back?" He sounded eager, not sad to miss me, not annoyed. Eager. "I'll text you," I said, turning away before my face betrayed anything. I left the house. I didn't go to a client. Instead, I drove straight to that street. The same quiet, manicured neighborhood, the same familiar ache in my chest. And yes, the same car sitting in the same driveway beside that brand new Ram pickup. I parked half a block away and stared at the sight I'd seen before, but prayed I'd never see again. But there it was, the proof. Cold, parked, undeniable. And this time I didn't just take a picture. I took a video, timestamp and all. Once I had what I needed, I went home in absolute silence, moving on autopilot. I packed clothes, toothbrush, chargers, passport, important papers, a few sentimental things I couldn't bear to leave behind. It wasn't dramatic, just methodical, mechanical. The way you pack when your heart is no longer in your body, but watching you from the corner of the room. By early afternoon, I was checked into my hotel room. I sat on the bed for a moment, staring at the plain beige walls and breathing in the unfamiliar scent of industrial detergent. Everything felt unbearably quiet. Then I dialed his number. He answered on the first ring. "Hey, babe," he said cheerfully. "How's the client visit going?" I could hear papers shuffling as if he was pretending to work. I could hear the slight echo of a room with no office equipment. I could hear the lie. "How's the spreadsheet coming along?" I asked calmly. He froze. Even from the silence on the line, I could feel him freeze. "What spreadsheet?" he stammered. "The one you're not working on," I said. "In the conference room you're not in. At the job you're not at." Dead silence. Then I let the hammer drop. "I know where you are. I know who you're with. I know what you've been doing. And I know it wasn't just today." He inhaled sharply, the sound sharp enough to cut. "Jean." "No," I snapped, my voice cold enough to frost over. "Don't speak. I'm done hearing lies from your mouth." Another breath, a tremble, then he whispered, "Where are you?" "Not home," I said, "and I won't be when you get there." I hung up before the panic in his voice could become another manipulation. For 20 blissful minutes, my phone was silent. And then, chaos. 27 missed calls in a row. Then texts, one after another. "Jean, please answer. It wasn't like that. We can talk about this. I swear I can explain. Please don't do this. I'm begging you." His desperation poured through the screen like oil, thick, messy, impossible to scrub off. I turned my phone to silent and placed it face down on the desk. For the first time in days, I exhaled fully. Later that evening, after forcing myself to eat something, I called the only people who had the right to know what was happening, my parents. The moment I said the words, "He cheated on me," my mother gasped like someone had hit her. My father didn't gasp. He went quiet in that dangerous, slow-burning way he always did when something crossed a moral line. They asked where I was. I didn't tell them. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I knew if anyone knew, the chance of it reaching him would increase. I wasn't risking that. That night, I sat on the cheap hotel bed with my knees to my chest, listening to the hum of the AC unit and the muffled sounds of traffic drifting through the window. I cried. God, did I cry. Not because I wanted him back. That part of my heart had turned to stone. I cried because of the humiliation, the betrayal, the stupidity of believing I was loved by someone capable of sleeping at a stranger's house and then kissing me 20 minutes later. At some point between sobs, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't him. It was his older sister, and then 2 mutual friends, and then his coworker, Stephanie. All of them saying versions of the same thing. "He's falling apart. He's not eating. He's crying nonstop. You need to talk to him. If something happens to him, you'll regret this forever." That last one? That one lit my blood on fire. Because now I wasn't just being guilt-tripped. I was being threatened with responsibility for his emotions, his actions, his breakdown. I didn't even respond. I just blocked them. Every single one. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted, but lighter, like something had been ripped out of me in the night, a tumor I didn't know was killing me. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was the first step toward it. And when my husband texted me again at 6:42 a.m., begging me to come home, I ignored it and contacted a divorce attorney. I thought the worst was over once I contacted the divorce attorney. I was wrong. The worst was everything that came after, the secondhand opinions, the pressure, the blame, the rewriting of the narrative by people who knew nothing but wanted to speak like they knew everything. My attorney told me to hold the line. No contact, no explanations, no apologies, no negotiations. So I did. I stayed in the hotel for weeks, then moved to a short-term rental, quiet, small, furnished. A place with no memories, no ghosts, no reminders of the life I used to pretend was happy. For a while, my life was painfully simple. Work, microwave dinners, a walk around the block, crying in the shower where no one could hear me. Sleep. Repeat. Every few hours, my phone would buzz with another text. From him, from someone connected to him, from someone who wanted to be involved. I ignored them all, because I knew the moment I broke no contact, he'd swallow it whole and use it to pull me back in. It took 3 days before the panic phase hit him. 3 days of silence before he escalated to long, pathetic, emotional paragraphs. I'm dying without you. I can't eat or sleep. You're my whole world. Please, Jean, please. I swear I'll fix everything. Followed by voice messages of him sobbing, the kind of choking, melodramatic crying that felt more like performance than pain. I didn't reply. Not once. His meltdown turned into resentment, then rage, then you owe me a conversation, then desperate bargaining, then threats of self-harm, then blaming me for even discovering the affair. But I held my boundary like it was the one rope keeping me from drowning. My attorney handled everything: court filings, asset division, all the ugly parts of unraveling a life. I didn't see him, not once, not in person, not on video, not even across a courtroom. We made sure of that. But avoiding him didn't mean avoiding the fallout. His family turned on me in waves, like tides rolling in. His mother: Sweetie, every marriage has bumps. Why are you being so dramatic? His father: You're really going to throw away 8 years over something like this? His sister: If he does something stupid, it'll be your fault. That last one? Blocked. Permanently. I mourned the loss of them almost as much as the marriage. Almost. Because I realized they didn't care about me. They cared about the illusion of their perfect son. They cared about keeping the family image neat and tidy and intact. Not the truth. Never the truth. My own parents, though, they were my lifeline. They didn't tell me to forgive. They didn't tell me to go back. They didn't ask if I'd consider giving him closure. They told me I was brave. They told me they were proud. They told me walking away wasn't cruel. It was survival. And still, there were nights I broke. Nights I lay in my temporary bed, clutching a pillow, shaking from the force of trying to hold myself together. Nights when I thought, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I ruined everything. Maybe I should have heard him out. Maybe I should have... And then I would remember his car, that street, that house, that woman, the lies, the sprint to the store, the running faucet in the restroom, the eagerness in his voice when he thought I'd be gone all day. And the doubt evaporated like smoke. Months passed. Some days were easier, some weren't. The divorce eventually wrapped up swiftly, cleanly. No alimony, no kids, no assets worth fighting over. It was almost anticlimactic how unceremoniously 8 years unraveled. When the final papers came through, I sat alone in my tiny rental kitchen. I didn't cry, I didn't laugh, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt free, like I'd been underwater for years, and my head had finally broken the surface. That evening, he texted me again. Jean, it's final. I still believe we're meant to be. I'll be here when you're ready to come back. Love always. I stared at the message until the words blurred. The audacity, the delusion, the absolute refusal to accept reality. I didn't block him, not because I cared, not because I wanted to keep the door open, but because every time he messaged me, every time he told me how much he was struggling, how empty his life felt, how much he regretted losing me, a part of me felt comforted. Not in a cruel way, not in a vengeful way, but in a quiet, validating way. Like the universe tapping me on the shoulder and saying, you didn't imagine it. You didn't overreact. He really did lose something extraordinary when he lost you. Sometimes I read the text, sometimes I don't. I never reply. Let him talk to the void. Let him cling to fantasies of fate and destiny. Let him pretend this is temporary, because I know something he refuses to accept. There is no closure conversation coming. No reunion. No, maybe someday. No scene where we meet in a cafe and hold hands and cry about what we lost. No version of this story where I go back to a man who shattered me so ruthlessly and slept like a baby afterward. No version where I rewrite my boundaries to make someone else more comfortable. The only ending is this one. Me in a small rental apartment, breathing easier than I have in years, learning to sleep again, learning to trust myself again, learning to love the silence instead of fearing it. This isn't a sad ending. It's a beginning. And I walked into it the day I walked out of that house.